Hi, this is Taylor, and
This is Lara.
today we're going to talk about microbiology. So to start, what is microbiology?
Yeah, what is microbiology? What are microbes? And what are the different fields of microbiology? And how do scientists use microbes? Those are all questions we're going to cover in our introductory talk. So microbiology is the study of microorganisms. If it fits under a microscope, it's fair game for inclusion in some subfield of microbiology. This commonly refers to any kind of bacteria, which are also called prokaryotes, but there are also one-celled organisms that do have a nucleus called protists or protozoans. Also, microbiology has expanded to include the study of cellular functions of larger organisms that are intended to interact with microorganisms. In addition, viruses and fungi are investigated by microbiologists as well.
Yeah, there's tons of different fields, virology, mycology, and these all have to do with the different fields of microbiology. But looking more at how do scientists use microbes, there's about 6 different applications that microbiologists use. So there's just overview, there's medical microbiology, there's pharmaceutical microbiology, there's food and dairy microbiology, there's industrial microbiology, agricultural microbiology, and microbial biotechnology. So we're just going to kind of glance over each of them and kind of give you a direction towards, what does medical microbiology mean? Basically, it is talking about the disease transmission between bugs, epidemiology, which is the study of how disease spreads, some pathogens and vaccines. These are words that you've probably all heard of in your lifetime, but medical microbiology is probably the thing you know about most. You've always heard that bacteria is bad, bacteria gets you sick, but you have tons of bacteria in your body. You have more foreign cells in your body than your own cells. So a healthy person is going to have certain bacteria in their body, but an unhealthy person might have an increased level of bacteria in their body. So medical microbiologists kind of look at, what is getting someone sick, why is it getting someone sick, and what kind of drugs or vaccines can we use to prevent sickness, which kind of leads us into the next one, which is pharmaceutical. And that one is huge, especially with vaccines. You've heard the whole vaccine controversy about, do vaccines cause autism? No, they don't. The medical doctor that studied vaccines, Andrew Wakefield, he actually had to retract his paper because he falsified data, and he ended up losing his license because he said that children with vaccines got autism, and that was completely incorrect. But it's something that you hear about even nowadays because people don't know a lot about microbiology and don't tend to study it. Lara, do you want to talk about food and dairy?
Sure. The standards that we have for the sale of human consumption of pretty much any edible product require that they do quality analysis testing in food manufacturing and food packaging processes. And there are a couple of common culprits when it comes to food spoilage and foodborne illness, and one of them is E. coli. There was a recent incident November 12th this year. 50 people in Washington and Oregon were sickened with E. coli. And there have been other incidents with salmonella in peanut butter. And another common one is listeria, which is not usually harmful to anyone except for pregnant women and people with compromised immune systems.
Wasn't that like the ice cream incident too? Wasn't it listeria?
I don't recall an ice cream incident, but that sounds, feasible. And the one I'm thinking of, I think, involved cantaloupe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So food preservation and spoilage is a huge thing to look at. But not only that, but the bread, beer, milk, cheese, yogurt, these things have been around for 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years. Records of brewing beer date back to about 6,000 years ago to the Sumerians, and wine was 4,500 years ago. So humans, we've been using microbiology for years and years and years, and now scientists are just able to look at it and study it more in depth. And like what Lara said, like we test our food to try to make sure it doesn't spoil and doesn't have too many bacteria, right? Because there's a healthy amount that's in your system, but you don't want to have an unhealthy amount in different parts of your system, right? So if E. coli is natural to your gut, you definitely don't want to get E. coli in other parts of your body, because that is how you get sick. But the next part that we're going to talk about, the fourth area, is industrial microbiology, which kind of leads into the food and dairy. But what else about that, Lara?
Well, fermentation is included both in industrial and food processing. Fermentation is like a preservation technique that has been around for thousands of years before more technological advances were made. But wastewater treatment especially is the focus of industrial microbiology. There are certain parts per million that are allowed by standards for healthy people to not contract illness in their water. So you need to periodically check that your processes, like your chlorination processes, are in fact functioning properly to kill bacteria that you don't want in your water supply. And every city has every city water supply, thinking of available jobs in microbiology. When you add up all of these different functions and all of these different, everyone needs a microbiologist for something, it seems. So another industrial application of microbiology is whenever there is an oil spill, there is a bacteria that can break down petroleum. Its name is Alcanivorax borcumensis, and it processes hydrocarbons. So it can disperse oil, and the bacteria actually uses those as a nutrient.
Yeah, it's a very slow process. So when the BP oil spill happened, I think in 2010, yeah, they use this natural remediation kind of for the water, but it's a very slow process. It's not going to be overnight that all the bacteria eats up all of the oil. And so scientists try to make the process faster by making synthetic cells that'll eat up more oil, or fertilizers like nitrogen and phosphorus to add to the water to have bacteria populations increase. But so far, like, the natural process works best, which it tends to work best in most of our applications. But it's just awesome to know that bioremediation, using microbes naturally that occur in soil, can help the environment get back to its natural state after a disaster, kind of like an oil spill.
Another application of a subfield of microbiology is agricultural microbiology, and this is very, very important because plant pathology is a very big deal. There are some specialty vegetables that you may encounter in gourmet foods that have very small acreage for growing, and if that one piece of property gets wiped out by a plant pathogen, then there is a shortage of that food, and that will send food prices for that particular item up, and it's significant in a very economic sense. So the plant pathogens, when you think of honeybees and what honeybees are responsible for, and what would our food supply look like without honeybees? People have talked about that before. And so what would our food supply look like without beneficial microbes? It's the same thing. When you really think about it, it's profound how beneficial microbes prevent or inhibit pathogens from taking over plant habitat. So it's really it's profound to think about that. And the last field that I wanted to mention is more of a technological, it's more human manipulation. It's genetic engineering with microbes, and how that works is bacteria have extra sets of chromosomes on things called plasmids. They have, their chromosome that they use for basic cell functions and reproduction, but then they also have extra chromosomes called plasmids, and we can use those spaces on those chromosomes to insert other genes and make bacteria responsible for producing proteins that can be used for other applications like medical and especially things like insulin production and any kind of cellular protein that if you have a genetic condition that maybe your body doesn't produce that protein, you can use bacteria to produce that. And that involves gene splicing and culturing the new bacteria with the added gene, and then collecting by centrifugation, collecting the protein products and storing them and processing them for use in medical applications or industrial applications as well.
I mean, and I've heard like just this whole push for the human genome was completely sequenced a few years back, and just like nowadays, like DNA is just a huge study. And I've even heard that eventually down the road, people think that we're going to have like healthcare cards that you can just hand to your doctor and it'll have your entire genome on it. And by looking at your entire genome, they can look at, hey, what are you going to get sick with? Are you at greater chances for diabetes? What is your chances of getting cancer? Just by looking at your genome. And microbiology is a field that you can help manipulate that with bacteria. So I hope today you were able to pick up a few new things about microbiology, or at least have what you already knew kind of expanded. But we're going to talk more about this in our later podcasts. So if you have any questions, leave a comment. But this has been Taylor and
Lara.
And yeah, have a good day.
Welcome to the fabulous world of microbiology.
Of course.